Your sausage McMuffin with egg didn't change. Your receipt did. The sausage McMuffin with egg extra value meal includes a hash brown and a small coffee for just $5. Only at McDonald's for a limited time.
Prices and participation may vary.
And we're back. You're watching Bit of an Animal, the South African Rugby Focus podcast here on the Global Gain Lines. We have the full panel with me this week. Thembinkosi, Liza B, and Jean. Let's start the show.
This is a Bit of an Animal.
First topic of the evening, gentlemen and lady. South Africa dare to be great and fall short at Eden Park against New Zealand. Thembinkosi, we didn't get the result we wanted, but what are the positives you took from the game?
Okay. So first and foremost, I felt like we kind of lost the game when New Zealand went 14-0 up. And yes, we had a lot of mistakes in terms of, it seems like we didn't even know what obstruction was. Seems like it was a new thing. But in terms, despite all of that, I felt like we kept on fighting. We fought up until the end. First off, we tried the whole kicking and chasing thing, didn't really work out. And I think the positives, basically what my positives is the second half, when we started playing, we started running the game a little bit more. We started running instead of kicking, and I feel like that kind of translated to the points. And that seems like that's the Tony ball that people are talking about. And looking at the other squad for this week, we're going to get into that later. I felt like if we play like that, we might actually go beyond where we are. And also, I felt like that match also kind of told us, it was kind of like deciding like for all the 2022 World Cup winners, kind of as we were trying to figure out who still could bring that impact in a big game. And I felt like we kind of saw who can and who cannot. So I felt like there's a lot of positives but yeah, I'm disappointed that we didn't break that record. We had the best chance to break that record. We played decent, could have been better. That's my summer.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Thembinkosi. Jean, we spoke previously in preview pods about the conditions. Do you think we fell short in adjusting to the rain and the conditions in New Zealand, considering we no longer play in Super Rugby and no longer travel and tour New Zealand that often?
I think maybe at a mental level, we struggled. But then again, I mean, watching the game, you could hear there was a pretty vocal group of South African supporters there, and they were drowning out the New Zealanders at some point. I don't know if it was the conditions as such. I mean, yeah, the ball was slippery, and especially in that first 20 minutes, I mean, it was raining down. There's another word, as the Scottish would say, it's pissing down out here. But no, I think mentally we shot ourselves in the foot more than the conditions did.
Hmm.
And we sort of let ourselves down a bit. And I think the walking in there, it is Eden Park. The pressure is cranked up to 11. The atmosphere is at 11. And beautiful, don't get me wrong, this is beautiful pre-game with the lights and the choir, the anthems done and honored so beautifully by the choir, and you get the haka, and I think all of that just and we I think we just sort of fell flat. We were building up, building up, building up, and then we fell flat because New Zealand came out of the gate storming. As Thembinkosi said, they ran in two pretty soft tries, and we're stuck at 14-0. Let me wind the clock back to the Rugby World Cup quarterfinal against France. Eben leaps out of the line and takes a very risky chance of intercepting the ball and hitting it backwards. Lucky for him, it does go backwards to prevent exactly that kind of situation. France going 14-0 up within the first 10 minutes of the game. So understand that I think all of all of that just came together, and sad to say, I think we crumbled under the pressure just a little bit. That being said, we did grow into the game. As the game went on, I think this was a true case of the Springboks didn't lose, they ran out of time. If that game went on 10 more minutes, different ending.
Credit to New Zealand for doing well. Just on that point, panel, raise your hand if you know somebody who lives in New Zealand, considering how many South African supporters were at the game. Yeah. You guys, oh, Liza B doesn't know anybody in New Zealand. Wow, neither does Thembinkosi, because the viewers can only see my face in the block. It's only whoever speaking. So only myself and John know somebody in New Zealand, which is a surprise. Liza B, we were not in the lead in this game at all, but we were in it towards the end. Disappointed, or sort of is there stuff we can build on from this?
Yeah, so I know a bunch of people in Europe. All my friends left to Europe. They didn't go down south. So yeah, I actually know no one in Australia or New Zealand, which is maybe a bit strange. But if I go to Europe, I can basically couch surf for a month. So very disappointed, and I'll tell you why. A load of people want to talk about Tony Ball, and there's definitely things that could be said about it. But for me, it all comes down to defense. And if you think about just the Will Jordan try off the line out, he came past Malcolm Marx and Pieter Steftoy, right? And it's exactly what John was kind of alluding to in the World Cup, even last year. He would not have gotten past those players. And it's just on defense as if I don't quite know how to explain it, but it's like we are so trapped in the attack mindset that we just cannot focus when it comes to defense. And it's, to me, quite sad because our rush defense was such a point of pride. Our line out was such a point of pride. And it just kind of feels like we've lost that. And,
Yep.
almost like the players are just unsure of how to transition between attack and defense. And that's, to me, the disappointing part. Also, people, we don't live in Namibia. It does rain in South Africa. We we are playing in the URC in the middle of the winter where it's rainy and cold and in a way harsher than New Zealand with the wind and the rain. It's not easy. But I think this whole thing of, oh, it's wet, so now we can't play, it's very strange to me. Yes, it's a different environment. The people are different, and I'm not saying it's easy to go and play in New Zealand. But honestly, these are the Springboks. They should be able to catch a ball when it's raining.
As a Shark supporter who's watched my team struggle with the humidity in Durban for 2 decades, I don't understand why we can't adjust either. And then New Zealand teams would come through to Durban and then be able to pass the ball, move the ball in the back line, not as efficient as in dry conditions, but much better than we can. So
Well, they're
that's something
French.
we need to look at in terms of what are we doing in terms of coaching that we aren't able to adjust to different types of conditions. Overall, it's not a crisis. We dared to be great. We fell short. We very much sort of in a sort of a middle period of trying new things, and we trying to adjust the team and stuff. So I'm not freaked out about it. I'm actually looking forward to next week's game in Wellington, this coming weekend's game in Wellington. Again, 9 o'clock kickoff, early morning game. To build on to this, did we have ideal conditions going into this game? Did we look that prepared when the game actually kicked off? No, not entirely. But yeah, look, no one likes to lose. Jean, what's the way forward?
Yeah, look, I think, and Lisa touched on it briefly, and this is actually one of a couple of key points that I am carrying with me. So, first of all, there's a distinct lack in our defense. I know we've nulled two teams this year. We nulled Italy, and I believe we nulled was it the Barbarians that we won? They didn't get any points, but that to me is not outstanding defense. We were on the front foot the whole time. Those teams didn't place us under pressure. And a part of that is, and you have to understand that the ball of rugby is going to sway towards attack naturally. It's the course of nature, right? We swung it to defense, and I say we because the Springboks did this. We drove defense massively to be the most beneficial style of play. So when you drive something that far, there's a natural tendency for balance to come back. So it's going to swing towards attack. And Rassie, to his credit, has recognized that and he's brought in Tony Brown, and we see this all-out attack. And then we have to struggle because when we go on all-out attack on front foot ball, it's that first 20 minutes at Ellis Park. Like no one knows how to keep up with us. Where's the ball gonna go? How do you stop Pieter Steph Tutoy and Cheslin Colby with JC Kriel on his inside? Understand? That is for most teams a nightmare scenario right there. And the Aussies couldn't deal with it, right? And I'm pretty sure if conditions had been a bit better or the team had clicked a little better in Eden Park, we would have seen that scenario play out. Or hopefully have seen it play out. So I think that one of the key things for the team and for the coaching going forward towards the end of the year is to get the guys playing to find the balance between that rush defense and then being able to switch to that sharp, fast attack. And that balance is going to be crucial. Because if we get that balance right, not only do we have a pretty good defense, so we're not chasing any games, we're not leaking easy tries, but we can now put up a high score and then say, right, we're leading by 24 points, by 28 points. Let's let's switch to a conservative style of play. Let's keep the points difference as big as possible. We don't have to run up a cricket score of 50-10 if we can just put on a score of 33, right? It's still a big difference. So I think balance is one thing going forward that we have to look at. Going all in on one way, we've already done that. We know what going all in on defense looks like. It's kick, 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 kick. It's essentially last Saturday first half, right? I don't think I've ever seen Grant Williams kick that much. I think his hip was paining the next day like nothing else. And then just one other thing is we grew into that game a lot, and we in the second half the guys were more comfortable. They were finding their pace. They were finding their rhythm. But one thing that looking back goes very much under the radar is how finicky this New Zealand team was. Every turnover, every penalty, every single thing that went their way. Parker, Taunga Fanaka, Tapaya, all these guys, they were in our faces celebrating. Rico Ioane, time and time again, would come up and just that niggly. It's like that guy at the office that you don't like, and then he gets a promotion and he can't stop telling you about it. At some point, you just want to throw him out a window. So I can imagine the restraint it takes for guys like Kwacha and Thomas de Toy to be like, don't pick him up, don't pick him up, don't pick him up. I think that's why they kept Eben at the back, was like, just gaan sit. You're gonna moor someone. So I think yeah, credit to New Zealand. Like they were the sand in the gears that it was very difficult for our gearbox to get going, for us to find a rhythm, because they were just so finicky with the little things they were doing. Um, I don't know if it will work this weekend. I don't
Yeah,
think you're going to get away with it twice.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to bait us in terms of that, but we didn't take the bait, which was very mature of the team. Look, your earlier point, very good point, speaks to the broader idea of high-level rugby, and Test rugby is the highest level rugby. You need to keep evolving because the other teams are evolving. We didn't win the most recent World Cup in 2023 the same way we won in 2019. So coaching staffs have to be nimble. They have to understand that they need to evolve their game plan, and the manner in which you evolve your game plan might not produce success, but the likelihood if you just try and do the same thing you did in the previous World Cup won't breed success. That having been said, we did sort of try new things in 2019. We basically played our cards close to our chest, and then in the final we played a slightly more expansive, not as expansive as people might think, where we played extremely conservative leading up to the final, which then put the opposition on the back foot. There were a lot of like tactical nuances in 2023 that then played into our favor. But the reality is those things could have backfired. But the fact that our coaching staff is so confident, and Rassie Erasmus has been evolving as a coach within a very conservative rugby environment within South Africa for years. He's been doing things and being criticized for it since the time he started coaching at the Cheetahs, trying to do new and innovative things that people think is uh, against sort of rugby values. But the reality is that he at least having him as our head coach and the coaching staff around him, just like with the women's Springboks, it's not just the head coach; it's also the broader coaching team. At least gives us the best opportunity to find success. Thembinkosi, I really like the fact that you have a rugby ball in your hand there. I sometimes do that on the URC Rewind. But I have a Sharks rugby ball, which I got from my friend Gershwin many, many years ago, who, by the way, isn't a Sharks supporter. So it doesn't make any sense why he had a Sharks ball in his house. We still haven't figured out that mystery. Thembinkosi, show us the rugby ball you have and give us your thoughts on the game.
It's a Gilbert ball. Maybe he had a Sharks ball to give to you. Maybe it was like a present to you. But yeah, like Chuck said, John said, I think we we are in that transition stage where we're trying to play something new. We're trying to play in a different way. And I think that's kind of what caught us off guard with like maybe the first half of this game is that we've been trying to play this new way of playing the last couple of games up until now. And we kind of had to revert to the old way just to secure points or just, I think, just because it was like something that you already knew. And I think players get caught in like two minds sometimes of what play should I be running? Should I be playing the old one? Should I be playing the old way? And when you come to fatigue and everything, you start kind of resorting to what you know. So I think maybe we are not at best at transition yet, but we'll get there. But yeah, like also what I wanted to mention is that New Zealand, New Zealand were disrupting in the lineouts. They were disrupting us in the breakdown. They made sure that they were prepared for anything. Even that that line out in the middle of the field, they took that down. Like as soon as it went out, when the ball came down, someone sacked that liner. So I think they were kind of like prepared. And going back to that that first try, Leroux's one, they were able to exploit our rush defense. So they made sure that everybody runs up, leaving the wing isolated at the corner, and they just kicked it. Leroux didn't get the ball, but basically they were prepared. Like whoever did their homework or whoever was in charge of analyzing the box, I think for the first half, they analyzed everything to the T.
Excellent. Liza B, your final thoughts on the game that was before we move on to the game that will be?
Yeah, look, Oh, so what I also wanted to say is congratulations to Adi Sevilla. I'm actually, if there's one little silver lining to all of this, it's that he got a win on his 100th test cap, and I love that guy. I think he's such a great player. So as a um as a Springbok supporter, I didn't like the to lose, but I was very happy for him. Um in terms of the box, you guys have kind of said it all, right? It's I'm also not stressing. It's not like the world is ending, but it is now, I think, for this weekend, um, very much the job of the Springboks and of the coaching team to come out and to actually show that they can turn this around. We know that they are the strongest when things are stacked up against them. It's kind of the South African DNA. So I do have hope. There's nothing terribly broken in such a way that it can't be fixed, right? We have the players, we have the coaches, we have everything. It just needs to come together. And like we saw in the second half, we can do it. It's just a matter of when.
I think the reality is that this upcoming game this Saturday at 5+9 in Wellington is going to be watched by people millions across the world. Why? Because yes, the Springboks are underdogs, but they're slight underdogs. We've moved some things around. We've gone with a youthful fly off and a more senior scrum off. That type of balance is always nice. Mari Libbok's on the bench. Hopefully, Grant Williams will have a better impact off the bench than he did in the game. Things have evolved. We were lucky to have such a wide player group so that we can make changes and adjustments. And that's what's so much fun about rugby is that you lose one week, but the next week you're going to make adjustments, but the team who won is also going to make adjustments in anticipation of what they think you might do. And in terms of like which players, personally, I'm a big David Willemse fan. I like him playing at 12 for the Stormers, even though I don't support the Stormers. So that combo of Sesh Feinberg and Gomez Zulu and Damien Willemse as an additional playmaker. Apelele Fassi, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Obviously, a Sharks player. And then Ethan Hooker, we're going to talk later about Currie Cup. Ethan Hooker over the last 2 years has gone through the system as in playing inside center for the Baby Box, then getting a lot of game time last season in the Currie Cup for the Sharks. That's why the Currie Cup is such an exciting tournament for many of us, is because this is where you see people like Damian Marcus and Ethan Hooker build up. That having been said, if a player played alongside Ethan Hooker at the Baby Box, at the Sharks, and they're not yet in the Springbok team, it doesn't mean that they're failures. We can't judge everybody on the same sort of trajectory, and progress isn't, I keep saying this, I'll say it every week, progress is not linear. So, Jean, are you excited at the changes to the match 23?
Yeah, look, uh, this is I was waiting for this to come up. Um, so let me talk about the team first. I actually want to compliment the forwards who started because I don't think that they necessarily had a bad performance. Um, we were pretty stable. Yes, there was defensive lapses, but it was across the board. It wasn't that the forwards in particular let the team down. Um, we let in soft tries, and that was on the forwards and the backs. What makes me happy is the fact that we've got a couple of props and at least one hooker who is showing real talent and real hunger. When they came on, they made a big impact, and it's no small feat getting New Zealand scrum to go backwards. That was the moment. It was probably the happiest moment of the game for me. So that's no small feat, and you can just see the hunger in them, and that's fantastic. In terms of the back line, yeah, I think this is a do or die back line. If they gel and they communicate and they keep a tempo where everyone's involved, it's gonna be hell to keep up with them. It's gonna be hell. And I'm happy for that. I love Willemse at 12. I think until he gets a bit of his pace back and a bit of his match fitness back, 12 is the best place to put him. He's extremely good in the close contact. He's got a ridiculous step on him for a guy of his size. Kanan Moody at 13, I think defensively could be a decisive factor for us, especially with Jesse Kriel mentoring him. He's got a similar sort of size, similar speed to Kriel. So I think if he makes his reads well, then that is definitely a decisive factor. Sasha at 10, Reinach to sort of balance the guys out. Fussy, I'm hoping we see some of Fussy's boot and that he's not scared to send it back to the Kiwis. And then I think one thing that is probably flying under the radar, but that will make a relatively big difference, is for the first time in quite a couple of matches, we've got a balanced loose forward trio. CI is at 6, doing the job of 6. Peter Steff is at 7, doing the job of 7. And Jasper Wiese is an 8, doing the job of 8. So we don't have this. Yeah, exactly. Like Lisa's going like, it's so easy. But yeah, I think the impact that will have is, it might feel small, but it's a critical impact. And in terms of securing, in terms of ruck security, in terms of protecting Reinach, protecting Grant Williams, that's going to be massive. Looking at the bench, very happy to see RG Snyman there, Kwagga Smith there. The bench is like full on impact. We are here for impact. We are, you know what's coming when they come on. And then Grant Williams, Mani Lebok, and Andre Esterhuizen, happy days. That is like speed out there. So we can bring speed, and with Esterhuizen, this is sort of a 5-3-6-2, or maybe we can call it a 6-3 bench split, because Esterhuizen can go to flank, he can go to center. But yeah, so wherever we need, whether we need punch in the back line or stability up front, Esterhuizen can slot in. I think it's a well balanced team, and I'm actually excited to see them go. And in terms of, if I can take everyone back to 2022, we saw similar strategies where we had the World Cup winners from 2019 playing one game, and then we had a younger team playing the next, all through the TRC. And we had a pretty mixed TRC that year, and we copped a lot of flack for it. And a lot of Springbok fans was like, "Oh, what's Rassie doing? We're not winning between World Cups." I mean, we even lost to Wales in Bloom, right? So, or in PE, I think, for the first time. But looking towards next year, I think what we will see next year, because it's the last full year of rugby before the Rugby World Cup, is we're going to see a chosen 36 squad, and they will be the squad. That will be the squad with a match day 23 and backups that we will have. So I think this year is Russie's year of, let's pull out jokers, let's do midfield lineouts, let's do all these things. Next year we're going to start to see that all converge with that focus on 2027.
Cool. Thembinkosi, your highlights of our match 23, and even you can even weigh in on the few changes that Razor Robertson did on the All Black 23, if you are so inclined.
Okay, I'll start with Springbok. Just to add on what was just said, I think okay. So I alluded to this earlier. I think these two matches kind of decides on who becomes that territory that you were talking about earlier, on who's going to be those people next year. And I feel like this is, while last week's match was a test for all the established people and who are we taking forward going forward, I feel like this is the more of now the young people between you guys. Who really wants to be in the squad in the next World Cup? Who will change the game? Who will, like, we're basically trying to sort that out. And I think you can tell with the squad. The back line, because I'm going to start, the forwards are basically the same. Was just Sia in the right spot, and yes, finally back, and is no more a professional. What did Raz call him? I think it's like a professional trainer. So it's good to have him back. But in terms of the back line, I think this is the back line going forward. when we remove all your Krills, your Leroux's, your Pollards, when we remove all those people that actually won the last World Cup, this are kind of we are kind of invested in you and kind of see where this is going. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play out. On New Zealand side, they mostly, I think, bar to the change in the front row, the change at the change at fullback, but that change was also like on the last match when the wing got hurt. So I think New Zealand went basically pretty much the same squads. I think they are also trying to kind of see their best combinations throughout the whole park. And it's good to see Leroy Carter. It will be interesting to see how Leroy Carter gels in. And now that if Damien McKenzie stays at 15, that sorts up a lot of things for them. And now Will Jordan and Leroy Carter Will Jordan will actually be free to be Will Jordan, to score all those Will Jordan tries. So it's interesting to see. And now with who's this Ruben Love on the bench, it's going to be interesting to see how is he going to get in at 10? Is he going to get in at 15? How are they going to gel that time? But pretty much, I feel like they went for pretty much the same type of squad, and they just replaced. Oh, Noah Hotham is also back, so it will be interesting to see how he will play. Even though I thought maybe Christie also played well, he didn't play bad last week.
Excellent insight there, Thembinkosi. Are you on a Super Rugby podcast that we're unaware of?
No. I just watch Super Rugby. Like it's like a good in the morning. We wake up with Super Rugby, then end with URC. Like it was just like a good way.
Jean, your insight on New Zealand?
Yeah, I've got a question for Thembinkosi because clearly he watches the most Super Rugby, yeah. And I agree with him. Keeping Damian McKenzie at 15 obviously paid off for them last week. Do you think with a different nine coming in at Noah Hotham, and then a new wing with Leroy Carter getting his debut at 11, do you maybe think that those two guys just, I know it's small shifts in the dynamic, but under the Springboks high ball and a bit more tactical kicking that we'll see from Sasha, who's more the chip over the top kind of guy. But again, also him and Damian Willems are not scared to play kick tennis. Do you think that maybe, I don't know, I've got a feeling this week we'll get better return under the high ball? Do you agree with that?
It's possible, but then Leroy Carter's being chased down by Chester Kobe. So it's kind of like a newbie versus a very experienced guy. So I'm not sure how that battle will play out. So I'm thinking that maybe Chester and Kobe with this experience probably had a better shot at it. In terms of the nine, I don't know. I feel like we're just kind of throwing him into the deep end. We could have just went with the pair that worked last week. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was great, but I think Christie held it down. We could have started him now and maybe had Noah coming from the bench if we wanted to take out Parker. But in terms of I think so. But to answer your question, I think maybe we might get that kick just because they're new and it disrupts the whole, I would say, momentum or plan that they had. So we might get a better kick return.
It deeply concerns me that when Thembinkosi speaks about New Zealand, he says we. Oh my God. Liza B, you really lit up when I mentioned Damian McKenzie. I was under the impression that you were the president of the Evan Roos fan club. Is there stuff you want to tell us?
That's quite an accusation to throw around. But no, it just is very interesting what Thembinkosi was saying. You know, the issue, well, I don't want to call them issues, but the debate in New Zealand around their 10 and for how long it's kind of been going on. And he just made a very good point. That's why I lit up, and it would, right? Because I do think Damian McKenzie I do think he's worth keeping in the squad. He brings a hell of a lot to it. So it makes perfect sense what Thembinkosi was saying. So he just gave me a light bulb moment, which I appreciate. So thank you.
I actually said I said Damien Willemse instead of
Oh,
Damien
Damien
McKenzie, but you
Willemse,
seem to
sorry.
like all the Damiens.
I do. I'm partial to Damien's, I'm not gonna lie. But Damien Willemse is one of my absolute favorites. It's between him and Ruiz. I do love both of them. Gaza is just such a wonderful player, and I'm so glad that he is back on the field. Because you, so when Rassi was saying that he doesn't have a lot of confidence and they're kind of working on that, I feel like Gaza is one of those players who gets confidence from being on the field. And he kind of rises to the occasion. So playing him is the best way to get him back into form, really, for me. And I'm so, so happy he is there. And yeah, at center is interesting. For me, he is more of a fullback, but like everyone has said, he is good on defense, so he's going to bring a lot there. And I'm very happy that Kainan Moody is on center. I have a beef with Jake White, who plays him on the wing all the time. He is a center, and that is where he belongs. I think if he were to have come to the Stormers instead, Dobbo would have played him there, and I think that's his position. Also interesting for me is kind of thinking if Marnie comes on, is Sasha going to move to 15 or is he going to stay at 10? And to kind of have that double playmaker then, because Fassi is not for me so much the playmaker. So in the second half, at some point, will we see that change? And yeah, as Jean has said, it's really nice having an actual 8 playing 8, and all the others. I don't. This game is really going to tell me whether Jasper Wiese is the replacement for Dwayne, because I don't really feel like we have found the person or developed any of our 8s to actually be the incumbents. So this is going to tell me for one if that's going to happen. All in all, this is a do or die team, and it's almost like last week we went back to old school ball, and I kind of feel like Rassi has just gone, we cannot keep going to and fro all the time. We need to commit to something. And so I'm wondering if this backline isn't telling us, well, this is now it. We're going for all out on Tony Ball, and hopefully we have enough in the defense to back it up and that it actually clicks.
Just
Yeah.
want to mention the Jake White not a fan club is quite a big club. Not all members are distinguished, but you are welcome.
I'm not. I'm sort of indifferent about Jake White because I mean he won us a World Cup, but he's sort of like a firebrand. Shout out to Trokkies, Jono Augustus, recently left Northampton, formerly of the Stormers, recently left Northampton for Ulster Rugby, so we'll see him in the URC. I think he will also be in the mix. Unfortunately, he could not be in this sort of cycle as of yet. Maybe we'll see him in the overseas tour when we tour Europe later this year. So we might have seen him a bit at number 8. He's sort of just a complete 8, doesn't play blindside flag at all, that type of thing. So yeah, the rotation at 8, and we're lucky to have him in the system. As it relates to the New Zealand team, we're seeing more of a formidable team under Razor now. I think they had some teething problems when they initially came in, but yeah, this they've got the depth, they've got the quality, they've obviously sort of read up on the opponents, and similar to the Rassi system of them sort of evolving as a team, they don't get too down when they lose to Argentina or they drop a game here and there. They understand that there's sort of a broader picture. Every team sets out to win every game. However, sort of understanding a longer term goal and not getting distracted is a vital part of Test rugby. All right, guys. The game again starts at 9:05 SA time, so it's more than enough time to do the parkrun and still watch the game. Okay, topic number 2 of this evening. The South African women fall short against the French team at the World Cup in their third group fixture. Sois de Bruin and his broader coaching staff rotated the team quite a bit, much to the anticipation of our guest last week, Angus Ockmerman. Liza B, what positives do you take out of this, and how do we take it forward into our next game against New Zealand in the knockout stage?
Yeah, I think you said it right there. It was a heavily rotated team. Just for those who maybe don't know, there were 5 players who made their World Cup debut in the French game. So Swayze the Brian also and the coaching team also made it quite clear that they were kind of focusing. I wouldn't say that they didn't want to win against the French, but their focus was on the quarterfinals, and I think rightly so. Remember that the squad that went to the World Cup is 32, and this now means that all 32 players have had a chance to play. Also, we know that in this World Cup, we might not get as far as going to the final. So this is also very much a springboard for the next World Cup, and to actually give our players that opportunity to play in front of a big crowd, to play in high pressure situations, which we don't get enough exposure to. We play so few international tests in a year that this is really valuable experience for those players. So I understand why he did it. It wasn't the nicest game to watch because the French were just class. I mean, they literally outclassed us in every single area, even the scrum, which was very sad to see. But players like Kozwayo, who came off of the bench, she made her World Cup debut at 1, and Lushal Hanekom as well. And just to go through it, so Nomsa Makwai also debut, and Polo, unfortunate to get to that red card, and Faith Tsauke, who's also a very, very promising player. All of these players do not have a lot of caps, and so they would have learned through this, and Mary Zulu also came on. So I think all in all, it was a good strategy. And also just to play against such a physical French team, and to test ourselves against that. So not a nice result, but all in all, I do think it is the best thing looking into the future, and also resting, very importantly, our best players for this weekend coming up. We don't have the luxury of depth in the same way that the Black Ferns have, or anything like that. So we have to work with what we have, and I think Swayze and the coaching team understand that very clearly, and we have already we have punched above our weight in such a massive way. Going down against the French was also not the worst thing, because we won Brazil and we won the crucial game of Italy to get us where we are now. So that's my positives. And I actually don't have a lot of negatives. I think we kept on playing for 80 minutes in the French game. We did make some mistakes and we were outclassed, but we didn't give up. And that try by Ruiz at the end was, I think we were all just so happy that that happened. And for Bayandre, I always, her name never falls off my tongue correctly. So Bayandre Dolph, to her kicking throughout the whole World Cup has been so impressive. So it was nice to see her getting the conversion as well.
Look, we were stark underdogs, and within the context of the group, this was the game that we were likely to lose, but we made a good account of ourselves, considering that there was rotation as well. And I think it's very good for South African rugby public. Maybe some of them who haven't sort of gone through the ups and downs with the Springboks and have more sort of rode the crest of the wave of success of the last 6 years, that type of thing. To understand that from humble beginnings, we can build something really good. And I'm really excited at the positive effect this team has had over the broader rugby public and South Africa in general. Because I think if they play another game more not too long after this World Cup at Athlone Stadium, it will actually sell out. Whereas prior to that, a lot of people wanted to go, but then maybe didn't prioritize it, myself included. But yeah, I'll definitely be there at Athlone Stadium if they were to play. I think that would be smart to do it, to take it to the community. A counter argument would say take it to DHL Cape Town Stadium, but at the community, reasonable prices would help sort of build the profile of the team, because once people actually in the stadium watching the team play, that creates a certain bond for it. For example, the fact that I was fortunate enough to watch a URC game at Cape Town Stadium this past season, I might support the Sharks, but it gave me a greater insight into the Stormers. So, Jean, how do we build on this for this coming weekend's game?
Yeah, look, going up against the Black Ferns, it's a tough one. This is probably the toughest nut to crack. I think in women's rugby, the Black Ferns and the Roses are probably the two teams there's no half measures going in there. I think Swiss, agreeing with Lisa, did absolutely the right thing, resting some key players, giving them time off. Um, if I had to put myself in Swice's shoes, try saying that 3 times fast. Um, if I had to put myself there in that position, for me it would be about playing to your strengths. I don't think New Zealand has maybe the strength to match us, especially coming off the bench. And if we capitalize, I would say don't wait until you're in the 22 to do a strike play. We've got Berhandre, Ruiz, um, Ngwevu. We've got a lot of people with proper pace. Malinga again, very much in the mold of Mapimpi. So if we are even in their half, pull your strike play. Don't hold back. Don't hold your punches. You're only gonna get these opportunities. Rather take them early than too late. And push them to where we can bully them. Because if we go in trying to match them at their game, yeah, that's not how you win a rugby match. Um, so yeah, I think that if I put myself in Swace's shoes, that's what I would do, is focus on when we have the ball, keep the ball. As soon as you cross that halfway line, pull your strike move, um, and then yeah, push them to where it's equal footing. If we fight them on unequal footing, we're shooting ourselves in the back. That would be my approach. But I know the team was announced today, and he's gone for 7-1. So I think he's very much in the mindset of we can bully you up front, so we are going to bully you up front. And you might have good wingers, but we have proper forwards. So you will have to live with our proper forwards for 80 minutes. And I think it might not be as smooth sailing as the All Blacks expect. They also don't have the luxury of a lot of game footage to analyze, which is actually something that it's a bit of a shower thought that popped up this afternoon. Is much like the Springboks in 2023, shifting players the whole time. Swice has only been with this team for a short time, and while there's no grand encompassing strategy or anything, as much as it means that we play very basic, any trick plays, any switch plays, any strike plays that we have is very difficult for them to prepare against, because they might only have caught a glimpse of it once or twice. So I think there is some positives going into this. I know the world is expecting the All Blacks to trounce us, but as the Japanese said in Brighton, it's not that easy, Tanaka-san.
Before we shoot to you, Thembinkosi, I'd just like to ask one question of Liza B. Is this stat incorrect? Did the utility back Apiwe not come on, or is this website just not updated correctly?
My
Apiwe
goodness. Ngwevu.
Yeah. Utility back
Um,
can play, has played wing, played outside center, played
yeah,
fullback,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Are you talking about
Did
in the
she
French game?
yeah, in the French game. Did she come off the bench in the French game?
She would have had to, but I also see in the line now you're asking me a question
Yeah.
that
It
I
might
don't
just
really have the.
it might just be a typo. Yeah, because I mean they are nothing's perfect. These aren't accumulated that
Yeah, but
insightfully
I'm
at
also
times.
trying
They were,
to think back, and
yeah.
of course now it's Thursday, and all of these details are completely out of my head.
Mistakes happen. Yeah, including in on the website. Maybe that's just a typo. Thembinkosi, you really looking forward to the double Springbok Saturday? This one kicks off at 2 p.m. by the way.
I am, and I think she came off the bench. I'm right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I think she came off the bench. So I think that website is right. But yeah, I'm excited to see this match. Like you said, we by we this time I mean the Buck women. We we I think we I think we have a chance to. I'm not saying an upset, but to bring on a tough game, like to bring on a proper tough game and bring it to the Black Ferns. And I know that it's not the best. We don't. We're not in the best position, but I feel like we have enough. Last week's game, especially introducing all the debut there, it was a nice way of. It was a nice way of. This is what it's like playing against a big team under pressure in a World Cup final. Most of you are debutants, but you need to know that next time, this is the type of pressure you need to prepare for. So I'm not sure how. I'm not saying we're going to win, but I feel like we have a chance. Well, a very slim chance.
We look forward to the game. Any insight into the New Zealand starting team, Lisa B?
Well, so I mentioned depth before, and the Black Ferns have that in spades. So they are resting some players, and they do have um, some injuries. So I don't know if you would call this their A team, but even the B team Black Ferns are formidable. And you have Portia Woodman-Wycliffe there. I mean, we all know who she is, the legend of the game, larger than life. I think it would be amazing for the Springboks to actually play against a player of her stature. That in itself, just having that opportunity is, I think all of their dream, I'm sure. So we have her over there at number 11. Also a smiling assassin, Stacey Walker. She's just been amazing. And yeah, I could run through all of these. That have also really put up their hands this year to really show a lot of these players are going to keep on, like Georgia Miller, and we even have our Amy du Plessis, born in South Africa. She moved to New Zealand, and so it's going to be interesting to see her on the field as well. But yeah, it's not their strongest team. It is still a very, very strong team. And yeah, like you guys said, most people are expecting them to put up 40, I've heard banded about. We'll see. We will see if we can outmuscle them. And I think that is going to be the strategy. It's going to be interesting for us also to see if Lewis is going to move back. If Eloise Webb comes on, she's the only backline player on the bench. If she comes on, will Mpupa move out to the wing again and there be a bit of a switcheroo just to also bring a little bit of energy back into the backs, so to speak. So yeah, this is literally the best team I think we could put out against them. Also expect the first half to have an earth-shattering scrum with Charlie and Gwala and Lacha there. They are class and they will definitely give those New Zealanders hell.
Interesting that Canada is actually rated second in the world, so they're in with a shout as well. It's the fact that England have gone into so many World Cups more recently as favorites, but New Zealand have won it is super interesting. So if we get a New Zealand England final again, it'd be quite exciting. I kind of want Canada to win it because it's cool to root for the underdog. Considering that South Africa on we're still developing to the point that we can be competitive to actually win the tournament. All right, guys. Just a bit of insight as well. Our panelist Liza B was on the Women's Rugby Treehouse, so shout outs to her. So Women's Rugby Treehouse, check that out, as well as the Interpro show and Wall Street Journal and this podcast, and soon to be returning the URC Rewind. So like, subscribe, click the notification bell. We move swiftly on to our favorite tournament, the Currie Cup. We have to review. We want to review the last round of the round robin of the regular season of the Currie Cup. This was round 7. So my Sharks played a preseason game before this against Saracens of all teams. So some of those players mixed in there, and we then played this game. Some of the players in the Saracens game then appeared on the bench for this game. Both teams that they announced for the Saracens 2 games changed somewhat before kickoff, which is also quite interesting. And we were somewhat fortunate to defeat a more focused, more there were points in the game where you could clearly see that the Pumas had played together for a long time and they are not in preseason. But we pulled off the win, kind of denying the Pumas opportunity to be in the Currie Cup playoffs. It's kind of sucked. But the Currie Cup playoffs was like a shootout between 5 teams. I've seen some unnecessary criticism of Jimmy Stonehouse, the fact that the Pumas didn't make the playoffs this year. Pumas who won the SA Cup, by the way. But if we look over the history of Jimmy Stonehouse since he got to the Pumas, this is just a blip in terms of his time with the team, and nothing's perfect. I mean, the fact that the Boland is so competitive in the Currie Cup this season made it so that the whole tournament was better for it. And unfortunately, it meant that a team well run, well administrated, such as the Pumas, fell short. So overall, the team pretty solid. Not quite yet Super Rugby. Sorry, I keep saying Super Rugby for some reason. Not quite URC level just yet. Nice to see Mbata back. Jean, did you catch this game or any highlights and your thoughts?
Just caught a couple of moments, not very much. Yeah, I thought Pengse was pretty good. He had a couple of moments there, and then yeah, happy with Vincent Chichuka. He's possibly someone that should be pulling on the green and gold a bit more. And then yeah, Siamasuku just being reliable, getting them through the posts. So yeah, I think in that sense, I'm very happy. I think it's harsh on Jimmy Stonehouse not making the playoffs. It's been a very competitive year, and not in the sense that we have the Sharks and the Bulls and the Lions dominating. Yeah, I think once the smaller teams realized that they had an opportunity with the sprint competition format, which I like it. I think it levels the playing field a lot, for the smaller teams. I think it's just a bit harsh to say Stonehouse has lost his touch or something like that. He's been pretty consistent with the Pumas, and I feel like they had a lot of good victories. They put my Blue Bulls properly in a box. So yeah, I think that it's been a fantastic year of rugby, but it's been hard for teams to crack that top four spot.
Yeah. Tough on the Sharks. They're playing another preseason game in George this weekend against Western Province Stormers. But the fact they play a preseason game and we lost Emil van Heerden, who was pretty now breakaway last season, he really flourished as a lock. So, and then he also had some injury issues within the season, and we really missed him. Emil van Heerden's great at very mobile. Doesn't give penalties away like Corneral, although I do rate Corneral. It just needs to keep the penalty count down. Emil van Heerden showed great technique. Like I said, good in the line out. So yeah, going into URC in the next few weeks, it's concerning that we lost him. I mean, Corneral's also injured, so we're having somewhat of a lock crisis, that is. Lee Marvin Mazibuko hasn't been that good for the Sharks in the Currie Cup since he arrived back from France, but he looked a bit more stable in this game, considering he's surrounded by more senior players again. Sometimes as the only 27-year-old in sort of a pack can be quite difficult, sort of carrying the load. The Tutuka brothers played really well. I was a bit disappointed in Jaden Hendricks. Didn't have a bad game, but not to the level I would have expected. Again, this is again Jaden Hendricks, who didn't play a lot of Test rugby last season, but then when we got him back on our second game of the tour, he really brought a lot of high level rugby. You could see the difference between him and the guy he replaced the previous week. That sort of quality we needed. Good that Siamasuku played the whole game. Pascal EKG played well. There's a whole it's become somewhat of a meme because of the Sharks social media, where he was taking two portions of the team food, and he was saying it was for his wing partner uh PK Sobatle, who's also played really well. It's interesting that on the message boards, Francois Venter and Jao Penke have caught a lot of flack and be criticized for subpar performances throughout last year's URC and Champions Cup / Challenge Cup performances. But they had really good games in this game, so good for them. Yeah, off the bench, going to expect a lot from Bleuler, having Mchunu having left us for the Stormers. Tino Mavasere played the previous game in the warm-up and played quite well. Speaking of high quality, when Pepsi Buthelezi actually came on, it was like he was playing against people younger than him. It was like he was playing against under 20 players or something like that, because his quality really shone through. He sort of brushed off 3 tackles to score. Overall, solid performance from the Sharks. They had nothing to lose. They used it as a preseason, but glad to have gotten another victory. Thembinkosi, what did you take away from this game of the parts that you did or were able to watch?
I think I watched the whole game, so I'm pretty sure. I think I'm gonna start with the Pumas. The first half kind of were putting the Sharks under pressure. Like they were playing in their half, they were forcing them to make mistakes. Yes, the Pumas got when they started getting that yellow card. I think Sharks also got a yellow card. I think when they got that yellow card, it started to dip a little. But also now that I'm looking at it like at hindsight, I'm kind of thinking that instead of going for poles in the first half, they should have maybe tried to wait for a line out. Maybe they could have gotten a better return because they were putting the Sharks under pressure, and if they just kept pushing, maybe the Sharks would have gotten a yellow card, and maybe they could have got something out of that. But yeah, second half seems like it was a different game for the Pumas, and the Sharks just ran away with it.
Yeah. What's also interesting is that a lot of the Pumas players are now within URC teams. Edwin Swart got called up to the Stormers, so he's quite a veteran. He actually started ahead of Daniel Saki, who started most games at Fly Off this season. I think Edwin Swart had an injury. He started at inside center in the first fixture of this regular season. Um, Weirdly, Clinton Swart's the one that went to the Stormers. Edwin Swart, however, had a weird game, almost got a red card. The referee had to save him from himself, and is now um, in preseason with the Sharks. So interesting way things changed. There was another player. Oh yeah, and obviously Ross Brody, sometimes referred to as Ross Brodier. Sometimes pronunciation is different. We're not always going to get it exactly right, but I've heard people pronounce it Ross Brody and Ross Brodier, so it's not a big deal. Daryl Osungu, Nigerian born. Watch out for this guy. The Pumas rate him quite highly. Um, Lisa B, were you able to catch this game on Friday? And what were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of the games that I was able to watch on Saturday. I had some internet issues, so but I really liked this game. I thought, as you said, the Pumas showing just that balance that they've consistently had, and that is very much kind of what Stonehouse has established. I feel, or I think. And as you said, I don't think it's really necessarily his fault or the team's fault that they didn't end as well as they would have liked to. It is just this quick fire round almost that we've had of games, and the fact that I don't think anyone thought that Boland would actually be where they were, and the Bulls would not be where we all thought they were. So it was just kind of one of those weird competitions where things happened, and it's not necessarily that the Pumas didn't play well. It's just that other teams were also playing extremely well and did some crazy, interesting, wonderful things. But yeah, I love them. I also, like you said, with Swart, he's actually one of my favorite Pumas players, not Edwin, but the other Swart who is coming to Cape Town. I also saw that, which is uh kind of interesting. And I think it was nice seeing the Sharks kind of clicking a little bit more. It made me look forward to the URC a bit more, and also to see the kind of balance that they brought back. I'm going to be really interested to see if they continue that in the URC. And even though you did the Pumas a disservice, you did Boland a great favor because when you beat the Pumas, that meant that we went through to the quarterfinals. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you my address, and you can send me a check or something.
Will do.
Checks in the mail. Shout out to Sango Kamlashe. He might even get a URC post somewhere. He had a good season despite the fact that the Pumas did not make the playoffs. We move on swiftly to the first game on Saturday, where Lisa B's Bulan Cavaliers were unfortunately having to face the Stormers URC team wearing Western Province shirt. However, despite the loss, it's worth noting that the Cavaliers still made it through to the Currie Cup playoffs. Lisa B, despite your internet issues, were you able to catch the game?
Yeah, this one was luckily for me, otherwise I would have been very sad. Um, Not that the second half made me feel much better. In the first half, the Cavaliers did face up, I thought quite well. But it did seem like VP slash Stormers were just kind of trying to break us down, and they did it very well. In the second half, the mistakes and just the inaccuracies really caught up with us. And it's also what VP did very well is they kind of nullified that last 20 minutes where we usually like come out and do something crazy. They had just broken us down by that point so much that there was nothing left in the tank, I think. So we couldn't really play the full 80, which was a bit disappointing to see. Spirits in the Boerland were very high the Friday before, and people were, I know, like buses drove through from Wellington to Cape Town to support and everything. So it's a bit sad that the end score kind of looks the way it does. But all in all, you have to also think of the smaller teams, and this is true for Pumas as well, not having, once again, today's theme, it feels to me, is depth, but we don't have the depth or the URC players to call up. So all in all, it was expected. And I'm really looking forward to the quarterfinals. Sad that it won't be semifinals. Sad that it won't be in Wellington, but we take what we can get. A really good season, and just a pity that we really did fold at the end there.
Thembinkosi, do you think Boland built on this going into a semi-final next week? This coming weekend, I should say.
I think we're just gonna reset, and they need to just kind of reset and go back to what they were known for. And I think Western Province was kind of just too strong for them, and it kind of outsmarted them in most of the cases. But judging how they ran throughout this whole tournament up until this point, I think we can't just rule them out. They showed that they can come back, and if there's a time to come back in the tournament, this would be their game. So I think they have a chance, but again, they're playing against the Lions, so I'm not gonna give them any goodwill. I'm not even gonna give them advice on what to do. I hope that they lose because I want the Lions to win the Currie Cup.
I appreciate your honesty. Jean, was it nice to see the Stormers URC team get a run out? Anybody catch your eye?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch too much. I caught a couple of glimpses. Very happy to see everyone out. Stoked for Jean-Luc Duplessis, who got a very small amount of game time at 10. Glad to see Ivan Rus out and active again. Yeah, JD Schikkerling, Ruben van Heerden, I think are two guys who there's some potential there, and they could still go away. And then yeah, I feel sorry for whoever the doctor is who's putting cement into Dion Foury's neck, because yeah, the Stormers are relying on him heavy. But yeah, I think Lisa summed it up pretty well in terms of saying that, I think with a team that is 90% URC players, it the odds were not in Boeland's favor, especially with the usual last 20 minutes of sort of punishing teams in that last 20 minutes. But yeah, still a pretty decent game. One thing that does worry me a little bit is in terms of Sinatla. I didn't see much impact from him. I don't know if I missed it. I'm just saying in the glimpses that I saw, he seemed a bit passive. Um, and I understand it's not always easy for guys coming from sevens into the 15 setup. You're a lot more restricted in space. Um, the defense is much more intense. The fitness demands aren't as high, but yeah, I think there's some work to be done there.
Yeah, Sinatla was doing good work on defense, and then often we don't really give credit for that much. And then towards the end of the game, the ball started coming more towards him. So yeah, I mean it's preseason as well. But I take your point. Liza B, you didn't mention Evan Ross at all.
I'm trying to steer away. I'm trying to just focus on my Cavaliers, and I'll think about the Stormers after the Currie Cup. But no, it was really good to see him. And also, you guys mentioned Dion Fourie. I think it was his 100th cap for VP. So I mean, Yeah, what an awesome player. And I don't know if you guys saw the video of Boeland also presenting a gift to him after the match and saying, he's really a hero to them as well. And it must have been quite the moment for the Cavaliers to play in Cape Town against such a wonderful player. Glad to see him back though. Going to be interesting to see if he can keep going for the Stormers. I hope he does because we definitely need him. The one player that the VP player that I was a little bit disappointed in is Porthen. He kind of is the hope in many ways for Stormers scrum going forward. And in this game, he did not impress me very well. But anything can happen. This is preseason for them as well. So yeah, going to be interesting to see who of these guys get game time in the URC.
Yeah, Zachary Porthen, former Baby Bok captain, quite young at prop, so had struggled a bit this Currie Cup season. It's his first Currie Cup season, but props tend to sort of mature towards their late 20s and early 30s. So yeah, we will keep an eye on him. Interesting that the Stormers can select both Jonathan Laroche and Damien Marcus. So those two very good inside center young options there. That type of thing. It's good to have that type of depth in sort of a marathon URC EPCR season, as opposed to a sprint of a Super Rugby season. All right. Good luck to Boland in the next round in the semi-final. We'll get to that a bit later. Golden Lions, Thembinkosi's Golden Lions, odds-on favorites to win this whole competition. Trounced Griquas. Thembinkosi, your thoughts on your team taking a lot of momentum into the semi-final?
Happy. Like we just need to carry on from here. But I think like the cricket started well. Like okay, the first like what was it like 20 minutes or 10 minutes where I think they scored first, and you kind of felt like okay, is this like a repeat of the Sharks? I mean the Cheetahs and the Cheetahs and Crickets game. I think it was last week where they came back strong, but discipline. They gave away too many penalties, and I think they had like what they gave away 7 penalties, and from there, I mean from the first try that they got, they could not exit their half. They didn't deal well with receiving the ball, so the Lions just kept on pressure and pressure and pressure. And I think half of the game was played in their own half because the Lions just refused them to get out, and the amount of pressure that they put in there, that's why they scored so many tries. I would say standout performance again. I'm gonna go with Smith. I liked how he decides when are we going for the line, when are we going for the pole. I think that's going to be very important, especially for the Lions going into the URC season. And I think we had like a lot of young fly halves. So it would be nice to see how a more experienced fly half would handle the back line. And it's good to see Henko van Wyk and who's this Grill. That's a good center combination. Like I'm waiting to see how that will turn up in games. So yeah, I'm happy. I think the gist of it is I'm happy, and I hope we continue from here.
Yeah, your depth at fly-off is quite good, actually. Chris Smith, having returned from France, didn't necessarily look the sharpest last week, but it was actually his first competitive game with the Lions, having just returned. Chris Smith, of course, looked really good for the Bulls for a few years, and only spent 1 season in France. Again, good to see Ashimpede playing off the bench. The other fly-off and sort of utility back option is obviously Lulubelo Dobela. He's looking quite good, along with Kate Voliter. They've also got Lobster. Corn Horn, you can see his experienced Test rugby because this looked easy for him. Good to see Ron Venter. He looked sharp, having returned. Dylan Shoblom having playing against his old team. Used to sort of made his name at the Griquas, so he put in a good shift as well. Jean, considering you live in the province of Gauteng and the Lions are now the only real team in the Currie Cup, what's it like being a Lions supporter?
Yeah, interesting. If there's any home games and I'm not working or otherwise occupied, might consider going through for one. Um, it's not that far of a drive, and depending on when they're scheduled, who knows. But yeah, I think the Lions are actually in an interesting position in terms of the Currie Cup, but not just the Currie Cup, the URC as well. Um, and I think they actually have a decent chance of maybe not winning the URC, but this will be my very controversial take. Maybe winning the Challenge Cup this year. Um, so I think that would be my controversial take. I have a feeling that they've got it in them to get some silverware back to Ellis Park, seeing that it's no longer the fortress of Springbok rugby. Yeah, I think Thembinkosi team. There's a lot of talent here, and they've got an extremely good culture. You can see it in the players. They really do play for one another, and there's a strong bond between them. Um, Getting to the URC final, that takes a lot of luck, a lot of planning, um, and I don't know if they have the coaching depth right now for that. But the Challenge Cup, on the other hand, I think is, I don't want to say below the URC because that comes across as rude, but it might be a bit more achievable in terms of the competition.
Thembinkosi, your thoughts?
I actually just want to agree with it. Like, they should, I feel like winning the URC is kind of like a fast stage for them. They should not focus on the URC. However, but if they focus their resources on trying to win the Challengers Cup, I think that is a tournament that they can realistically win and be like a consistent challenger for that cup. I think in France they have, is it Lyon? I think they could be like a Lyon where they don't win the top 14. They're probably not going to win the Champions Cup, but the Challengers Cup, it's a trophy that they can go for. And I think if they win this one, especially because when was the last time they won a trophy? If they win this Currie Cup, maybe, maybe.
Yeah, I think I actually, considering how the Lions have started to build, I can see them making the playoffs in the URC. Maybe not winning the whole thing. I don't think they have the quality, quite the quality of the depth, but they're looking much better than the last 2 years. So I think they're going to be quite exciting. Over the last two URC seasons, they have had good spells. Like last season, they started really well, it sort of fell off, and they couldn't get that momentum back. But yeah, I'm actually really excited to see the Lions this season. As somebody who's recently won the Challenge Cup and the Currie Cup, I would recommend it. So we would be remiss if we didn't sort of talk about Griquas just for a bit before we move on. Griquas are also in the playoffs. So yeah, they put in a good shift. Yes, they scored first, but then they sort of fell off. I think this will hold them in good stead. Would they have wanted to win this game despite being very much underdogs, having to go from Kimberley to Johannesburg? Yes, but I think they're not out. They're not out of winning the Currie Cup, and this defeat might just help them refocus and understand that this is the level they need to shoot towards. They might meet the Lions again in the playoffs. So again, it's all the usual suspects because they've had a very consistent team. They haven't had major injuries, thankfully. It's the captain Dlamini. It's a friend of the program, Gershon Ware. It's Zwelandaba, inside center, despite getting the yellow card. It's the backline, Connor Mahoney, the rotation of Connor Mahoney and Hofka, because generally it's Hofka, Maat, and Weir, and then throughout the season they've bled in Connor Mahoney back and forth. Leon Lyons with the experience coming off the bench. So yeah, we actually will be sort of rooting for them as very much underdogs Currie Cup playoffs, except for Thembinkosi because he's going to be very much Lions. All right. onto the Bulls, who did not make the playoffs, but it didn't stop them from completely out-muscling the Cheetahs until they got an unfortunate red card from veteran loose forward Marcel Coetzee. Jean, you obviously watched this whole game twice. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think um the red card notwithstanding, the Bulls really came out and you can see the difference in terms of what a of what Ackermans brings to the table. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm disappointed in a sense. We allowed the Cheetahs in certain key areas where we could have been better. I still think there's a big mountain to climb for the Bulls in terms of having a defensive strategy and a defensive plan. Um, it feels like their whole defense right now is centered on staying connected and pushing towards the touch lines, which doesn't always work. You need to know what happens when you cross the 50, when you cross the 22, and your defensive line needs to adjust. Your back three needs to adjust. Your wings need to adjust, and it feels like a lot of that is not happening. Very happy with Keegan Johannes. Obviously, Pollard, who is the incumbent of the 10 jersey now. So we're blessed with three good tens: Keegan Johannes, Andre Pollard, and then Johan Goosen as well. So I was very happy with Johannes's performance off the tee. But yeah, I think there's more in this team that needs to come to the front. Lot more that needs to come to the front. Marcel's red card, yeah, I don't even want to go there. Because part of me just doesn't want to invite the discourse around red cards. I feel if a referee pulls out a card 9 times out of 10, it's deserved. I'm not gonna go around challenging cards, so yeah. But yeah, I think the Bulls in general will be unhappy with the season, not making the playoffs. When the opportunity was there. I mean, we know that they were impacted by the flu. They couldn't always play to their fullest strengths, but at the same time, a lot of these guys, they could have made a difference a week earlier. They could have drip fed the URC players into the team instead of using the last game to get them match time. I think there's other approaches. But if they had taken those approaches, then we wouldn't be sitting with one of the most exciting Currie Cup knockout features coming up. So yeah, a bit of a difficult position to quantify, having to support the Lions now. But yeah, I think there's definitely there was a bit of an improvement in terms of Ackerman taking over, and then yeah, just there's definitely more room there. One guy that slowly growing on me is David Kriel. Um, Initially, I didn't think that much of him, and I didn't rate him that high, but he's slowly starting to grow on me. I'm starting to, I want to see become a believer, but the Kool-Aid is beginning to look really, really inviting.
It's an interesting team from the Bulls that they put out. It's not necessarily full URC. There's a couple of guys who haven't gotten any young guys who haven't gotten any Currie Cup, like the starting eight, Van Heerden. Great to see Gumede back in the system. I was obviously earlier in the season hoping to see more of him. He's from sort of the Shark system, bulked up a lot since he got to the Bulls. Yeah, very much a URC front row, and that can really bring you wins in the Currie Cup. Overall, two tries from Tristan Jooster, lot expected of him. Still quite a young guy though. Jan Serfontein, his first game for the Bulls, having returned from overseas. Um, Usual Currie Cup captain Nabak Naba on the bench. No Juno Pokamela in this game. Yeah, very much running out a solid team and using it as a preseason. I don't know if the Bulls have scheduled another preseason game. Thembinkosi, did you get a chance to catch this game?
I did. I think I watched all the game. So yeah, in this game, what the Bulls win up until the red. I think everything changed with the red card, and my theory on that is that because what is this? Because Marceau was probably like the lead tackler and he was the one doing all the chasing and he was like the fetcher. When he went down, there was kind of no one doing that role, and that's why the Cheetahs were able to come back and try to actually level the game. But otherwise, I think like the Bulls started very well, and I can see Ackerman's influence. Like John said, we need to work. They need to work on their defense. I'm not sure what exactly is going on there, but yeah, I can see them being. But then again, they're a threat every season. I can see them being a serious threat in the URC.
Yeah. Looking at the Cheetahs, having just sort of snuck into the playoffs, which is not necessarily the best in terms of a team trying to get either into the URC and or Super Rugby, although I support both campaigns. I think they'll be much like Request. They're going to use this as fuel for next week. Often teams bounce back from defeats. I think they'll be in with a shot in the playoffs. They've got nothing to lose. They've got veteran Victor Sekekete leading them very well, by the way. They've got veteran Clayton Blommetjies looked a bit off the pace in the URC for the Stormers last season, but sort of seems to have revitalized himself, having returned from the Cheetahs. Clayton Blommetjie sort of broke through at the Cheetahs. He went overseas for a bit, played for a Welsh team, and then came back and signed with the Stormers for a few years. So I think he's quite comfortable now back at the Cheetahs. They've got depth, they've got players. And what's interesting is that this podcast in particular and other podcasts as well have gone in depth with the Currie Cup. And this will actually bleed into the SA Cup next year because some of these players, if not all of them, we're going to be watching the SA Cup a bit more closely because going into the Currie Cup, I didn't know the teams of the non-URC franchises that well, but now I more intimately understand the depth and the characters within Boland, Cheetahs, Pumas, Griquas, that type of thing. So I'm going to be watching them closely and then hopefully watching SA Cup and learning more about Border Bulldogs, EP Kings, and so on and so forth. Lisa B, I know you missed a few games this weekend, but were you able to catch this game and or any highlights?
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Mhm.
It's been a week. Um, but just to add on to what you were saying with the SA Cup, it is so much fun. Like if I can recommend something to someone who maybe hasn't gotten into SA Cup, and like you said, it just it's I think we really need to get over this idea that some rugby is high level rugby and therefore worth watching, and other rugby, is kind of beneath us. I think there's a weird South African thing that we do that I'm not a fan of. Um, SA Cup is exciting. It's fun. You really get a sense of all the different unions in South Africa, and also where people come from, where players come from that go through the ranks and the smaller unions and end up at URC or at even the Springboks. So definitely would recommend, and I'm really loving this format of the SA Cup and the Currie Cup. I think it's worked really well this year. Last year, I felt that the smaller teams were even more at a bit of a disadvantage because it was a longer season for them, just because of how the Currie Cup was structured. So definitely, if I could ask Saru, please keep it this way for at least a few years. It's working really nicely. And yeah, quite happy with that.
Great stuff. What's that? That shouldn't be there. All right, so the log is as it stands. Interestingly enough, Pumas didn't make it through. That means it's Born Cavaliers versus Lions, Griquas versus Free State Cheetahs in Wellington. Lions versus Born Cavaliers will be at Ellis Park. Jean and Thembinkosi, will you guys be watching the semifinal between the Lions and the Born Cavaliers at Ellis Park? Thembinkosi,
Yeah.
will you be going through to watch the game?
That was what I was planning, but unfortunately not. The plans had to change. But that was, I think that would have been I really wanted to go to the game because I feel like it's a nice game to watch. And I'm just thinking how Poland will react, especially because they've already beaten the Lions in this season. So it would have been interesting. But yeah, I'm going to try to watch it wherever I am.
Yeah. Interestingly, that the Pumas just missed out on the playoffs. I really like the fact that this is such a close top five. It makes for a very competitive environment. I agree with Liza B. I like this format. The Currie Cup format has evolved a lot over the last 4 years because of the shifting priorities and or tournaments that the South African teams participate in. But I hope they keep this format, and the fact that there's SA Cup. And I reside in the city of Cape Town municipality, so I can at least watch Boland play in the SA Cup. So those are the semi-finals, and we look at the times. They're both going to be on Saturday, so neither of these games clash with either of the Springbok games because we get the Springbok men's senior team playing at 9:05. We get the Springbok women's senior team playing in the World Cup fixture against the Black Ferns, the New Zealand women's team, at 2:00. And then at 5:00, we get a bit of a break. And then at 5:00, we've got Lions versus Borland Cavaliers. Thembinkosi, should I bother to ask you who do you think is going to win this game?
I think I'm going to be diplomatic. I think Poland are going to win this game. Lion, I'm joking. I think the Lion. I think the. To be honest, I really think that the Lions need a trophy just for their supporters.
Lisa B, prediction for the game?
Boland! Daar is net een land. No, it's gonna be a big ask. I think especially I'm expecting the Lions to go full URC. I haven't seen Griquas have put out their team, I think, but none of the other ones yet as of recording this. Yo, I can just I can just say Boland. I'm so impressed with them. They've had such a wonderful season, and if they can pull this one through, like, yo, I don't know, the whole of the Winelands are going to lose their minds. And Jean, you don't have to support the Lions. You can. You are allowed to support Boland. That's all I'm gonna say.
Jean, on that note, are you supporting Boland?
I will proudly flip-flop to whoever the winner is and then claim that I have supported them from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a winning strategy. All right, Griquas, Cheetahs. This is going to be slightly tighter, likely. I think the Cheetahs, both teams having lost this past week. Yes, it's in Kimberley. I think the Cheetahs have a shot. I think it's going to be Griquas by 3 points. Thembinkosi, what do you think is going to happen? Which of these two teams are going to meet you in the final? I think Thembinkosi is frozen. Okay, we'll go to Liza B.
Yeah, I was frozen. I was frozen,
Yeah.
but I just got back. I was as you were speaking, I was kind of like frozen, and I was like, he's gonna go for me first. I hope he doesn't go for me first. But yeah, in terms of this game, I kind of want the Griquas to kind of reach the final, so I want them to win. Even though I am a closet like Cheetah supporter, I feel like they were robbed in all the other tournaments like the URC. So, but I'm gonna go with Griquas.
Okay, great. Jean, Griquas or Cheetahs?
Yeah, I've just got this feeling Griquas is gonna sink Cheetah's chances, eh? Like I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. And And it's sad because I think in my heart of heart, if I had to choose a team to support, I would lean towards the Cheetahs. But yeah, I just feel like Griquas are gonna have the edge on them just a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. There's something I can't put my finger on. I just think Griquas will take it. It's gonna be close though. I don't think we'll see a blowout in either game. No cricket scores. But specifically for Griquas Cheetahs, I'd say Griquas by between 3 and 5.
Cool. Lisa B, what are you going for, Jimny or Hilux Bucky?
I actually drive a Suzuki, so I have to go with the Griquas. But also just it's not easy to go to Kimberley, even for the Cheetahs. And I just feel like Griquas have had the more stable performance. They've been consistent where Cheetahs have kind of hit a few speed bumps. So I'm also going for Griquas, but like you all said, I mean, it's obvious it's going to be close. I kind of want the Cheetahs to win just in case Boerland do some magic and we see a Cheetahs Boerland final. That'll be cool. But even the Griquas, it's just we haven't managed to beat the Griquas in the SA Cup or Currie Cup. So yeah, but also interesting with Griquas Cheetahs, they do have this history where they play each other in the SA Cup, in the Currie Cup, like almost every year. So they do know each other really well. It's going to be super close and very interesting.
Okay, on that note, I look forward to all 4 games on Saturday. From myself, from City of Cape Town, from Liza B in Wellington, from Jean in Gauteng, and from Thembinkosi from the land of the long white cloud, Aotearoa. Until next week, in Rassie, we trust.
Thank you for listening to A Bit of an Animal. Please like, rate and subscribe wherever you see us, and join us again next week for more of the same. Until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Lowe's knows how to get you ready for holiday hosting with up to 35% off select home decor. And get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, members get free delivery, haul away, basic installation, parts, and a 2-year Lowe's protection plan when you spend $2,500 or more on select LG major appliances. Valid through 10/1. Member offer excludes Massachusetts, Maryland, Wisconsin, New Jersey, and Florida. Installed by independent contractors. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for more details.